The clearing was still trembling from the Nameless One's departure. The trees leaned as if recovering from a storm. The air tasted like metal and old fear. Baze Baptist stood in the center of it all, chest heaving, throat raw, the echo of his name still vibrating in his bones. Grey Wolf was silent beside him, lightning bow dimming. The judge stood tall, golden light flickering like a candle fighting the wind. The judge's voice broke the silence. "Next time," he said, "it will not come alone." Grey Wolf nodded grimly. "It will bring its brood, its echoes, its unmade things." Baze swallowed hard. "So, next time is worse." The judge didn't soften it. "Yes." Grey Wolf didn't sugarcoat it. "Much worse." Baze looked between them. The immortal judge, the storm-scarred Hata too. The two beings who had carried him through the fire. And something clicked. Something sharp. Something brave. Something that felt like the iron spirit waking up. He straightened. "Then we don't wait for next time." Grey Wolf turned to him. "What are you saying?" Baze stepped forward, voice steadying. "I'm saying we stop reacting. We stop surviving. We stop letting it choose the battlefield." The judge's golden eyes narrowed with interest. Baze continued. "We hit it first. Together. All three of us." Grey Wolf blinked. "You want to hunt the Nameless One?" "No," Baze said. "I want to end it." The forest went silent. Even the wind paused. The judge studied him, not as a student, not as a child, but as something rising into its own power. "And how?" the judge asked. "Do you propose we do that?" Baze took a breath. "Because alone, we're prey. But together, we're a verdict." Grey Wolf's eyes widened slightly. Baze pointed at the judge. "You have the chains, the authority, the power to bind." He pointed at Grey Wolf. "You have the storm, the spirit, the knowledge of what it really is." Then he placed a hand over his chest. "And I have the name. The weapon it fears. The one thing it can't steal if I wield it right." The judge's expression shifted, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Grey Wolf exhaled slowly, a low whistle escaping him. "You're thinking like a warrior now." Baze shook his head. "No, I'm thinking like someone who's tired of running." The judge stepped forward. And then something happened Baze had never seen. The judge's golden light dimmed. His towering form shrank. The cosmic armor dissolved into dust. And standing there in the clearing was a man. A human man. Dark-skinned, sharp-eyed, wearing a simple coat and a tired smile. The judge, in his human form, he looked at Baze with something like pride. "This plan," he said softly, "might just work." Grey Wolf crossed his arms. "It's dangerous." The judge nodded. "It is." Grey Wolf added, "It's reckless." The judge nodded again. "It is." Grey Wolf sighed. "And it's exactly what we need." Baze felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. "So we do this." The judge stepped closer, placing a hand on Baze's shoulder. "We do this." Grey Wolf rested his lightning bow across his back. "Then we prepare, we train, we combine our strengths." The judge's human eyes glowed faintly gold. "And when the Nameless One returns, we will not scatter." Grey Wolf finished. "We will stand." Baze felt the iron spirit surge, the storm sight flicker, the ancestors stir. For the first time since this war began, he didn't feel hunted. He felt ready. The judge turned toward the forest. "Tomorrow," he said, "we begin forging the weapon." Grey Wolf added, "And that weapon is you." Baze inhaled deeply. The night around them shifted. Not darker, not colder, but aware. The Nameless One felt the change. It felt the unity. It felt the threat. And somewhere in the distance, the shadows rippled. as if something ancient had just realized it was no longer the only predator in the dark. The episode ends on Baze's voice, quiet, steady, resolute. Let it come. The clearing was quiet, but not calm. It's quiet in the way a wound is quiet before it bleeds again. Baze Baptist knelt in the dirt, drawing lines with a stick. Not random lines, but formations, angles, positions. He was planning, he was thinking. He was preparing for a war he finally understood. The judge, still in his human form, watched him with a mixture of curiosity and approval. "You're mapping the battlefield," he said. Baze nodded. "If the Nameless One comes with others, we need to control the ground. Force it into a choke point. Make it fight our way, not its way." The judge smiled, a rare human smile. "You think like a strategist. I think like someone who's tired of being hunted." The judge placed a hand on Baze's shoulder. "And that is why the Trinity needs you." But one of the three was missing. Grey Wolf. He had slipped away without a sound. Baze looked toward the tree line. "He's been gone too long." The judge's expression shifted, not fear, but understanding. "He is not avoiding us. He is avoiding himself." Grey Wolf's ghost, W.L.K. Grey. Wolf stood alone on a ridge, overlooking the forest, the moonlight turning his blanket silver. But he wasn't seeing the present. He was seeing a village long gone, a circle of Hogans under a sky untouched by cities, a world where the Holy Twins still walked the earth. He whispered, "I hoped it wasn't you." The wind answered with silence. Grey Wolf closed his eyes, and memory swallowed him whole. The sign, he never Espiacus. He saw himself, young, proud, chosen, a protector, a storm singer, a warrior, blessed by the Holy Twins. Then beside him, a boy, thin, bright-eyed, fearless, Ashki, Yahtzee, little boy. The one who followed him everywhere, the one who believed every promise, especially the one Grey Wolf never kept. "I will protect this village. I will protect you." The night the monsters came, Grey Wolf ran. Not far, not long, but long enough. Long enough for the shadows to take the boy. Long enough for the village to burn. Long enough for the Holy Twins to curse him. "You will walk until the balance is restored. You will not die until your cowardice is paid in full." Grey Wolf accepted the curse, but the boy did not die. He changed. He twisted. He became the Nameless One. The ghost who speaks by Sakagri Wolf opened his eyes. The forest around him flickered, half present, half memory. He whispered, "Ashki, I'm sorry." A cold wind brushed his cheek. A voice, faint, distant, but unmistakable, whispered back, "You will be." Grey Wolf didn't flinch. "You want my death. You want the end of my curse. You want the promise you made in the ashes?" The shadows pulsed. Grey Wolf's voice hardened. "But you will not touch the boy. Obasi is not me. He will not run. He will not fail. And he will not die for my sins." The darkness recoiled, not in fear, but in recognition. Grey Wolf whispered, "If you want me, come for me." The wind howled. The shadows twisted. And the Nameless One whispered, "Soon." Return to the CLE. Ryangi Grey Wolf reappeared in the clearing as silently as a ghost. Baze jumped. "Where were you?" Grey Wolf didn't answer immediately. The judge stepped closer. "You remember?" Grey Wolf nodded. Baze stepped forward. "Tell us. We need to know." Grey Wolf hesitated, not out of fear, but shame. Then he spoke. "He was a boy from my village. A boy I promised to protect. A boy I failed." Baze's breath caught. Grey Wolf continued, voice low, heavy. "He swore he would not rest until I was dead. And the Holy Twins cursed me because I ran." The judge closed his eyes. "So the Nameless One is the ghost of your sin?" Grey Wolf nodded, and it will not stop until I am gone. Baze stepped between them, between Grey Wolf and the weight of his past. No, Baze said. It will not stop until we stop it. Grey Wolf looked at him, startled. Baze continued, voice steady. You carry guilt. The judge carries law. I carry the name. He pointed to the ground between them. Together, we're not three people. We're a weapon. The judge's human form flickered with golden light. The trinity of power, he said softly. Grey Wolf exhaled a long, trembling breath. For the first time in thousands of years, I am not alone, Baze nodded. And for the first time in my life, I know exactly who I'm fighting with. The three of them stood in a triangle, judge, shaman, and named one. A trinity of power, a verdict waiting to be spoken. And somewhere in the darkness, the nameless one smiled, because it finally understood the next time it came. It would not be facing one enemy. It would be facing three. The day after the trinity formed was long, heavy, and necessary. Baze Baptist spent the morning carving sigils into the dirt, mapping out choke points, escape routes, and ambush angles. The judge, still in his human form, walked the perimeter with a quiet intensity, reinforcing the ground with golden verdict marks that shimmered like embers. Grey Wolf gathered arbs, stones, and stormwood, preparing charms that hummed with old power. By late afternoon, exhaustion settled over them like a blanket. Grey Wolf was the first to say it. We rest, he murmured. Even warriors need breath. The judge nodded. Even verdicts need silence. Baze exhaled. Even names need sleep. They ate what little they had, roasted rabbit roots and water from the stream. It wasn't much, but it was enough. When the moon rose, it was full and impossibly bright, bathing the clearing in silver light. For the first time in days, the forest felt calm. The wind was gentle. The trees whispered softly. Even the shadows seemed to keep their distance. Grey Wolf lay back on the grass, staring at the sky. The moon is a good sign, he said. A watcher, a guardian. The judge closed his eyes. Enjoy the peace while it lasts. Baze stretched out beside them, letting the cool night air settle into his bones. For a moment, a brief, fragile moment, he felt safe. He drifted into sleep, and the world held its breath. The thunder that wasn't Taco and DR. The sound hit them like a physical blow. A crack, a roar, a shattering. Not thunder. Not a storm. Something breaking. Baze jolted awake, heart hammering. Grey Wolf was already on his feet, lightning bow in hand. The judge rose slowly, golden light blooming around him like a second sunrise. The ground trembled. The trees shook. The moon flickered. Then a voice, deep, booming, ancient, rolled across the clearing like a tidal wave. Now you all will die. The words weren't shouted. They were declared. A verdict of annihilation. Baze staggered back. That's him. Wolf's eyes glowed blue. No, that's more than him. The judge's human form flickered. Golden armor beginning to bleed through his skin. He has brought his echoes. The forest erupted. Shadows poured between the trees, tall, thin, twisted silhouettes with hollow eyes and jaws that opened too wide. Not spirits, not monsters. Unmade things. Creatures born from the nameless one's hunger. Baze felt the iron spirit surge inside him. He stepped forward. We stand together. Grey Wolf nodded, drawing a lightning arrow. We stand as one. The judge raised his gavel, golden chains spiraling outward. We stand as the Trinity. The shadows circled them, dozens of them, moving like a single organism. The booming voice returned, closer now, heavier, vibrating the air. The Trinity will fall. Baze clenched his fists. Not tonight. The first WAV the shadows lunged. Grey Wolf fired first. a bolt of lightning that split the night and shattered 3 creatures into ash. The judge slammed his gavel into the ground, golden chains erupting upward, binding 5 more in midair. Baze stepped into the center of the circle, inhaled sharply, and called his name. Obasi, the ground cracked. Wind exploded outward. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in voices that weren't voices. But more came. Dozens. Hundreds. Grey Wolf shouted, "They're endless." The judge answered, "No, they are stalling." Baze's eyes widened. For what? The judge turned toward the tree line. For him. The sky breaks OPI. The moon dimmed. The stars vanished. The air thickened like tar. And then the sky itself split, a jagged tier of darkness opening above the treetops. From within it, a shape began to descend. Not a body, not a creature. A void, a wound in reality. The Nameless One. Its voice rolled across the clearing again, deeper now, dripping with ancient hatred. "Wolf," Grey Wolf's breath caught. "I have come to collect your promise." The judge stepped forward, golden armor fully formed. "You will not touch him." The Nameless One ignored him. Its shadow stretched across the clearing, reaching for Grey Wolf like a hand made of night. Baze stepped between them. "No." The Nameless One paused. Baze's voice was steady, strong, unshaken. "You want him? You want the past? You want the sin he carries?" He clenched his fists. "Then you go through me." The Nameless One's form rippled, a silent snarl. Grey Wolf whispered, "Baze, don't." The judge placed a hand on Baze's shoulder. "He must." The Nameless One leaned closer. "Then you will die first." Baze inhaled. The iron spirit surged. The storm sight flickered. The ancestors stirred. He whispered, "Obasi." The clearing exploded with light.
The clearing was still trembling from the Nameless One's arrival when the scream tore through the night. A raw, human scream. Baze's scream. What the hell? He didn't even finish the sentence. A force like a battering ram made of shadow slammed into his chest, lifting him off his feet and hurling him a full yard across the clearing. He hit the ground hard, rolling through dirt and leaves before skidding to a stop. Grey Wolf spun toward him. Baze. But the Nameless One wasn't finished. It raised a hand of darkness, and the ground split open. From the crack crawled a creature with glowing red eyes, a wolf-headed monster with a man's body, fur matted with blood, claws long as knives. A Rougarou, the Nameless One pointed at Baze. "Kill him." The Rougarou snarled and lunged. Grey Wolf drew his lightning bow instantly, but before he could fire, a second tier ripped open behind him. A shape stepped out, tall, twisted, human and not human, skin stretched too tight, eyes hollow and hungry. A skinwalker? Grey Wolf froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. "No." The skinwalker hissed, "Hadawi." Grey Wolf's hands trembled. He had fought many things, but skinwalkers were different. They were personal. The judge saw the hesitation, and for the first time in centuries, he looked surprised. The Nameless One's voice boomed across the clearing. "The Trinity will die tonight." The judge stepped back, raising his gavel high. Golden light erupted around him, burning away his human disguise. Armor of pure verdict wrapped around his body. His eyes blazed like suns. He pointed the gavel at the Nameless One. "Nameless One," he thundered, "you have been weighed and found wanting." A flash of golden light exploded from the gavel, a beam of pure judgment, ancient and absolute. It struck the Nameless One square in the chest, knocking the entity backward as if hit by a falling star. The earth itself froze. The trees stopped swaying. The wind stopped breathing. Even the shadows paused. The world was witnessing a verdict. The Rougarou lunged at Baze. Baze rolled aside, barely dodging the claws that tore a trench in the dirt. He scrambled to his feet, chest burning, vision spinning. Obasi. The name burst from him like a shock wave. Wind exploded outward. The Rougarou staggered, howling as the force slammed into its chest. But it wasn't dead. It charged again. Grey Wolf fired his lightning bow, a bolt of blue fire that struck the Rougarou in the ribs, sending it crashing into a tree. But Grey Wolf didn't get to breathe. The Skinwalker was already on him. It moved like smoke, like a nightmare wearing flesh. It slashed at him with claws made of bone and shadow. Grey Wolf blocked with his bow, sparks flying. "You shouldn't exist," he growled. The Skinwalker hissed, "You made me exist." Grey Wolf's face twisted with guilt. The judge saw it. "Grey Wolf!" he shouted. "Do not let your guilt weaken you." But the Nameless One rose again. Slowly. Deliberately. The golden blast had knocked it down, but not out. It stood, shadows swirling around it like a cloak. "Judge," the voice shook the trees, "you cannot weigh what has no known name." The judge slammed his gavel into the ground. Golden chains erupted upward, wrapping around the Nameless One's limbs. "I do not weigh your name," he said. "I weigh your actions." The Nameless One roared, shadows exploding outward, shattering the chains. The judge staggered back. "Grey Wolf!" shouted. "Judge! Behind you!" But the Nameless One was already moving. The Rougarou charged Baze again. The Skinwalker pinned Grey Wolf to the ground. The Nameless One lunged at the judge. 3 enemies. 3 warriors. 3 destinies colliding. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath. Baze inhaled sharply. The iron spirit surged. The storm sight flickered. The ancestors roared. He whispered, "Obasi." The ground cracked beneath him. Grey Wolf's eyes glowed blue. He whispered a Navajo chant, lightning gathering in his palms. The judge raised his gavel, golden light spiraling around him. The trinity of power ignited, and the clearing erupted into chaos. The clearing was chaos. The Rougarou lunged at Baze again, claws tearing trenches in the dirt. The Skinwalker pinned Grey Wolf, its hollow eyes burning with ancient hatred. The Nameless One towered over them all, shadows swirling like a storm of nightmares. Baze staggered to his feet, ribs aching, vision spinning. What the hell? He didn't get another word out. A blast of shadow slammed into him, hurling him a full yard backward. He hit the ground hard, rolling through leaves and dust. The Nameless One raised both hands. The air split open. A Rougarou crawled out of one tear. A Skinwalker stepped out of another. The Nameless One pointed at Baze. "Kill him." The Rougarou snarled and charged. Grey Wolf shouted, "Baze!" But the Skinwalker leaped onto him, claws scraping across his lightning bow. The judge turned, eyes widening. He had expected shadows. He had expected echoes. He had not expected summoned monsters. For the first time in centuries, the judge looked surprised. The Nameless One's voice boomed across the clearing. "The Trinity will die tonight." The judge's expression hardened. He raised his gavel and screamed, "Enough!" The word cracked the sky. The world froze. The Rougarou halted mid-lunge. The Skinwalker's claws hovered inches from Grey Wolf's throat. Even the Nameless One paused, shadows rippling in confusion. The judge's armor ignited, golden light pouring from every seam, every crack, every inch of him. "Grey Wolf," he commanded, N-O-W. Grey Wolf's eyes flared blue. Lightning erupted from his hands, arcing across the clearing, striking the Rougarou and Skinwalker simultaneously. The creatures shrieked, their forms flickering like dying flames. "Baze," the judge said, "call your name." Baze inhaled sharply. The iron spirit surged. The storm sight awakened. The ancestors roared. He whispered, "Obasi." The ground cracked beneath him. He shouted, "Obasi!" A shock wave exploded outward, wind, light, thunder spirit, slamming into the Nameless One with the force of a collapsing star. The Nameless One staggered. For the first time. It bent. The judge raised his gavel high. Golden chains erupted from the earth, wrapping around the Nameless One's arms, legs, and throat. Grey Wolf fired a lightning arrow that struck the chains, supercharging them with blue fire. Baze stepped forward, calling his name again, voice shaking the trees. Obasi, the Nameless One, fell to one knee. The shadows around it flickered. Its form wavered. Its voice cracked. "You cannot bind." Me, the judge, stepped forward, voice booming with cosmic authority. "You have been weighed and found wanting." The judge slammed his gavel into the earth. A shockwave of pure judgment erupted outward. The Nameless One was driven fully to its knees, shadows writhing, form collapsing inward. The earth itself trembled. The trees bowed. The wind stopped. The world was witnessing a verdict. The judge's voice dropped to a low, terrible whisper. "Grey Wolf, Baze, step back." Grey Wolf froze. "Judge, step back." Baze swallowed hard. "What are you doing?" The judge's eyes glowed brighter than the moon. "This judgment is extreme and irreversible." Grey Wolf pulled Baze away, both of them stumbling backward as the ground around the judge began to glow. The Nameless One thrashed, shadows screaming. The judge raised his gavel one final time. "I pass the sentence of death." The air split open behind him. A doorway of blinding white light tore itself into existence, a vertical wound in reality, humming with cosmic power. From within the doorway, a silhouette stepped forward, tall, armored, radiating cold, merciless authority. The executor. The one who carries out the judge's final verdicts. The one who ends what should not exist. The one even gods fear. The Nameless One screamed, not in rage, but in terror. The executor stepped into the world, and the earth held its breath.
Eyes burning with cold, merciless purpose. The Nameless One thrashed against the chains of judgment, shadows screaming, form flickering like a dying star. The executor raised a hand and spoke. His voice was not loud. It didn't need to be, because of your crimes. You are condemned to death. The words were final, absolute, a law older than God's, a single perfect strike, and in less than a heartbeat, the Nameless One was no more. No explosion, no dramatic collapse, just silence. A void snuffed out, a shadow erased. A curse ended. The chains fell to the ground, dissolving into dust. The doorway closed, the executor vanished, and the clearing was suddenly impossibly quiet. His knees buckled, and he fell. Not from injury, not from exhaustion, from grief. A raw, broken scream tore out of him, a sound that didn't belong to a warrior or a shaman or a legend. It belonged to a man who had just lost the last piece of his past. Baze rushed toward him. Grey Wolf. But Grey Wolf didn't hear him. He pressed his hands into the dirt, shaking violently. No, no, no. The judge stepped forward, his armor dimming, his voice softening. "He's gone," he choked. Ashki, the boy I failed. Gray Wolf's voice cracked. He was supposed to find peace. He was supposed to be freed. I was supposed to earn it. I was supposed to pay for what I did. He looked up, tears streaking his face. But now my penance will never be done. The forest held its breath. The curse of the Holy Twins. The curse that bound Gray Wolf to walk the earth until his failure was redeemed, had just become eternal. Not forgiven. Erased. Gray Wolf whispered, voice breaking, I will walk forever. The judge knelt beside him, something he had never done for any mortal. Gray Wolf, he said gently, your curse was not meant to punish you forever. Gray Wolf shook his head. The judge continued, you faced him. You stood your ground. You protected the boy who carries the name. You did not run. Gray Wolf's breath trembled. For the first time in thousands of years, the judge said, you chose courage over fear. Baze stepped forward, placing a hand on Gray Wolf's shoulder. You didn't fail him tonight, Baze said softly. You honored him. Gray Wolf closed his eyes. The judge rose to his feet. The Holy Twins will see that. The wind shifted. The trees rustled. The ground hummed, not violently, not in warning, but in recognition. Gray Wolf wiped his eyes, forcing himself to stand. It means, he said quietly, that something worse is coming. The judge nodded. And now that the Nameless One is gone, the balance will demand a replacement. Baze's heart dropped. A replacement. Gray Wolf's voice was barely a whisper. A new Nameless One. The forest fell silent. The moon dimmed, and somewhere in the distance, something stirred. Something ancient. Something hungry. Something waiting for the void left behind. The episode ends on Gray Wolf's voice, quiet, broken, and terrified. Gods help us. The real war is about to begin.
The clearing was silent, not the silence of peace. The silence of aftermath. Heavy, sacred, trembling with the echo of what had just happened. The Nameless One was gone, erased, judged, executed. The executor's doorway had sealed itself with a whisper of finality, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone and the memory of blinding light. Gray Wolf knelt in the dirt, shoulders shaking, breath ragged. The weight of 1,000 years pressed down on him. The curse of the Holy Twins, the guilt of his failure, the loss of the boy he once loved like a brother. Baze stood beside him, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. The judge, still glowing faintly with the residue of his verdict, watched them both with a solemn expression. Finally, Gray Wolf rose. Slowly, painfully, but with dignity. His voice was quiet, but steady. It's done, but the cost is mine to carry. The judge stepped forward, placing a hand on Gray Wolf's shoulder. No curse is eternal, he said. Not even one given by gods. Your path continues, not as punishment, but as purpose. Gray Wolf looked at him, eyes tired but resolute. And what of you, Judge? Your duty is never done. The judge's human form flickered, then stabilized. There are other verdicts waiting. Other worlds that need balance. I must return to my post. Baze swallowed hard. So, this is it. We're splitting up. Gray Wolf turned to him. No, we are walking different roads. But the road is the same. The judge nodded. The trinity of power is not broken. It is simply dispersed. Baze stepped closer. Then let's make it official. Gray Wolf raised an eyebrow. A pact. Baze nodded. A pact. When one of us calls, the other two answer. The judge smiled, a rare, genuine smile. A binding agreement between a shaman, a judge, and a named one. Even the gods will respect that. Grey Wolf extended his hand. Baze placed his hand on top of it. The judge placed his hand over theirs. A pulse of energy rippled outward, soft, warm, ancient. The earth hummed. The trees bowed. The moon brightened. The pact was sealed. Grey Wolf stepped back first. I must return to the desert. There are spirits stirring old ones. They will need guidance. The judge turned toward the sky. And I must return to the court beyond. The balance trembles. The death of the Nameless One has consequences. Baze exhaled. And I need to go home. My family deserves to know I'm alive, and I need to understand the second half of my name. Grey Wolf nodded. You will, when the time is right. The judge added, and when that time comes, we will stand with you. Baze looked at them both. The shaman who carried a curse, the judge who carried a universe, and himself, the named one who carried a destiny. Until we meet again. Grey Wolf smiled softly. We will. The judge raised his hand. We shall. And with a flash of golden light, he vanished. Grey Wolf stepped into the shadows, his form dissolving into blue mist. Baze stood alone in the clearing. The moon shone down on him. The wind whispered through the trees. The world felt bigger and heavier than ever before, but he wasn't afraid. He whispered to the night, when you call, I'll be ready.